with our top focus on India-China bilateral that took place between the defense ministers of the two nations. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today met Minister of National Defence of China, General Li Shangfu, in New Delhi. It is pertinent to note that this is the first bilateral meet between India and China since the 2020 Galwan clashes. Now, Rajnath Singh categorically conveyed that development of relations between India and China is based on the premise of prevalence of peace and tranquility at the borders. He added that all issues at the line of actual control need to be resolved in accordance with existing bilateral agreements and commitments. He reiterated that violation of existing agreements has eroded the entire basis of bilateral relations, and disengagement at the border will logically be followed with de-escalation. Now, tomorrow, the Raksha Mantri of India will also chair the key SCO defense ministers meeting in New Delhi. Let's try and get in a sense of perspective in terms of what this meet has meant for de-escalation and for disengagement as far as India, China and the LAC is concerned. I'm joined in by our correspondent Akash Sharma. Akash, important to weigh in on the hard stance that has been taken by India's defense minister. How do you weigh in on the language of the press release that we've seen today?
So first of all, the message is loud and clear, Akanksha. You cannot, take tensions at border areas and relations hand in hand. You cannot, take these things together. And this was very clear by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. He has mentioned it categorically that peace and tranquility is very important in order to, grow our ties and relations. As far as disengagement and de-escalation is concerned. So we have seen that how in the past, in fact, several attempts have been made. In fact, in the commander level talks, it has been tried that you should first disengage and then de-escalate. India is in fact, stressing on a pre-Galwan clash conditions where we obviously want that all troops from both the side should return back to their pre-Galwan, pre-April 2022 positions. And this is what, in fact, was mentioned by Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh. Also, Akanksha.
Right. I just want to ask you that, the bone of contention has been the disengagement at the LAC. Having said that, time and again, we've seen India reiterate this stance, something that India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has time and again been maintaining. What is the guarantee that China will pay heed to India's reassertion? Has India managed that breakthrough through this meet today is what one would like to know.
Two things, Akanksha. First of all, whether or not China is accepting that, it has actually violated the existing agreements.
Right.
The answer is no. They haven't accepted that they have actually violated the existing agreements. And now it will be very crucial to note as to what China is saying in its statement as far as this particular meeting is concerned. Also, the person, General Li Shangfu, the profile is very important. He is a defense minister now, and technically he is heading all the forces that have been deployed, all that are taking the stand in the Eastern Ladakh sector. We have seen the progress at various points, but Depsang and Depchok, both strategically important areas are, we have the escalated conditions. And, India is somewhere stressing that we should come back to our previous positions. But, in fact, after 18th commander level talks, it was clear that nothing concrete is coming out. And this is why everyone was believing that something should come out from this bilateral talks. But now the onus is on China, because everyone will wait for some sort of positive response from China. And it would be important to note as to how China is responding first to the bilateral meeting, as to what they are saying in their statement. Second, what will be the response of this particular fact that Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has made it very clear that it was the violation of existing norms, and that has eroded the basis of bilateral ties and relations.
Akash, it's interesting that you referred to General Li Shangfu. there's a lot of talk about how he is the first of China's defense ministers to come from the aerospace sector. Let's not forget that he's also been tasked to spearhead the modernization of the PLA. How will he prove to be different, especially when it comes to the LAC, when compared to General Wei Fenghe?
Right. He's a technocrat. And in fact, I remember the time when in March, he assumed the office. In fact, this was the time. In fact, this is the time when conditions between China and Taiwan are not very good. In fact, we saw that how, several things happened in the past. Then you have conditions between India and China not on a good note. And at that point in time, deploying a particular person who has that sort of experience, who is coming from a background. So it is strategically very important, because he was not only a technocrat, but he has actually taken the responsibility of a PLA in the past. He was a deputy commander, if I'm not wrong, for a good time. So this particular position was very important. This particular profile is very important, and it will be interesting to note as to if these things that have been mentioned by Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh in these bilateral talks would be conveyed in China, or would be taken a note of in China.
And while India maintains that two more areas that, as you rightly mentioned, Depsang and Demchok, are yet to be resolved, China has maintained that disengagement is complete and the remaining two areas of contention predate the standoff. And I'm talking about Depsang and Depchung. Now, how can India ensure that disengagement happens in these two areas and that India and China come on a common ground?
Right. So we have several agreements, Akanksha. In fact, this is what I'm mentioning, that China has never accepted the violations of the existing agreements. But the fact is that we have agreements of 1996, we have agreements of 2005, and lot more. One cannot deny the documents, and this is what has been mentioned by India time and again, that we have existing agreements, and you are somewhere violating the existing agreements that are pertaining to the condition and that are pertaining to the points at the line of actual control. And this is what India is trying to convey with this bilateral meeting, that you are actually violating the existing agreements. But yes, China is not accepting the fact, but it will be important to notice now as to what China will do after this bilateral meeting, because a statement from China is yet to come.
Absolutely. And since 2020, the status quo has been challenged time and again by China. Every time India tries to restore normalcy at the LAC, how much of a change will today's bilateral make, especially after there was no immediate breakthrough at the latest round of India-China Corps commander level talks?
In fact, I was reading some experts, and they have mentioned this very point, that today we have after 2020 we have we had in fact a face of kind of situation in Yangtze in 2021, and also the clash in 2022. So things are not getting better. And this time, yes, this was the first defense ministers meet after 2020, and this statement is a gist of what happened in this 50 plus 50 minutes plus meeting with Li Shengfu. But this was a gist, and I'm sure that a lot has been discussed in this particular meeting, and we'll get to know in details as to what was what were the in fact areas as to what was the discussion. But definitely, this will somewhere give a message. This will somewhere give a larger message, a clear message, that India is not going to take these things together. While on one hand, you are talking about bilateral relations, on the other hand, we are seeing situations like Galwan clash in 2020 and Yangtze clash in 2022.
All right. Many thanks to you, Akash, for joining in with the latest report on that much awaited India-China bilateral that took place today in the national capital.